Now, the one thing I wanted to show as another part of the demo is how to deal, not with the squash and stretch, because we've looked at that before, but the rotation, because that's the part that's new, is how do I deal with the rotation? And I'll use the exact same control. Let me just go to perspective view so it's easy to select. We'll do the exact same thing that we did last week. I'm just going to start with the ball and then at frame 7, right? I think that was the last point that was on this platform. And I'm just going to make a guess how far this needs to rotate. I'm just going to work in this part here. I need to make sure that that rotation is a straight line. It needs to be constant. And I'm just going to eyeball it and see if this works. And when I frame by frame, it doesn't feel like it's actually connecting to the ground. It feels like it's sliding. So I keep increasing the rotation until it feels believable. It's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. I just want to get the speed kind of in the right zone. And then I'll look at that and say, well, there's my straight line. That's my speed. So what I'm going to do from now on is I'm just going to keep that line going. So I'll go to the next point here, hit S, and I'm just going to lift this up and try to make sure that this is a straight line, the same speed as this, right? So it's going the same speed, the same straight line. Go up to the next one, hit the ground, put in a point, lift that one up. Again, make sure it's linear, kind of straight line. And then I'm going to hit the wall, boom, right? There's that impact. And move that up, put it linear there. And what's going to happen now? What'll happen to the spin? Is it going to keep spinning the same way, or is it going to reverse?
It can reverse.
Yeah, it's going to reverse. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go back the other way. So what I can do is I can go here and say, well, okay, I'll just imagine that this is a mirror and I'll just reflect down kind of the same sharpness, right? So I'm trying to make it like an equal side of a triangle, right? So the angle going in is the angle going out. So it's about the same. And I'll just keep doing that until I reach the last point. Okay, keep going down, and I keep having to hit this with linear. And of course, I could have the speed get less if I wanted to. I'll just start with this and see how it works. And then I'm eventually going to have to come to a stop. So this is the part that's tricky. Right here, I hit the ground. So I'll keep the spin going there. And then this is the part where people are going to notice whether my guess is accurate, because this thing has to completely stop right here. And I'm not sure, right? This is where I'm going to have to make a guess. And I know that this should be, if I break the tangent handles here, this should be kind of a straight line coming out of here. And then I'm going to slow down. But if I don't get it right, it'll be quite noticeable to the audience. And it's not bad, it's okay. I'm actually pretty surprised I got that pretty close. There we go. But it does feel a bit quick, right? We do kind of put the brakes on really quickly. So what I might do is something like this and say, well, maybe this last keyframe, I need more time for the rotation as well as the translation. So I need more time for both. So right now I'm using 20 frames, but it does feel a bit quick. So an easy thing to do is just drag this a lot further along and see how that feels. And you can see that I like the speed that it's slowing down, but the problem is my rotation. That didn't quite work out the way that I wanted. This rotation here is not tracking to the ground. I can see right in here, it starts to slide more noticeably. Here, I don't really notice it. I can kind of get away with that. So what I might need to do here is I might need to go and say, well, am I spinning too much or too little? I think it feels like I'm spinning too little. So I may have to grab this and just move it down a little bit and say, okay, well, if I do that, does that work better? It's not bad. Almost. Pretty close. And what I would probably do is if I really wanted to clean this up, I would look and see where do I notice it the most? And if it's really off, I would go in and put keys like every 6 or every 4 frames and just manually kind of get some information there to try and fix it. But if I get it close, as long as it doesn't feel like it's over rotating or under rotating, I'm happy to get it just close enough. Yeah, that's not bad. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Now, another thing you can do if you want to make this seem a little more believable is I'm going to grab the translate control and I'm going to grab the rotate. No, not that one. The red rotate, this one, the rotate control and the translate control. And what I usually observe with a ball when it rolls to a stop is that what happens is it will roll forward and then it will roll back a little and settle. So it's like it's kind of moving and right, and then it settles. And that'll make it feel a lot more believable than something that just comes to a perfect dead stop. And what I can do is I can actually go, let's say, to a position here and say, I actually want to go forward and roll back a little. So I can go and copy this point. There's no keyframe here, but what I can do is I can use middle mouse drag. So I can go here and say, yeah, I want to roll back a little, let's say like 85 or 84, wherever I feel is a good point. And I'll just use my middle mouse button and drag it over here. I don't know where, and just let go and hit S. And then I'll get this overshoot and settle. And again, I can adjust the timing, have this take a lot of frames just because it's really slow. And that just feels so much more organic, right? Just a little bit more. And of course, if I rotate back too much, I could change my mind. I could say, maybe that's too much. I could go and edit it here in the graph editor. I could look at both the translate. I could look at that and say, well, if I'm going left and right, it's very subtle, but right here, if I sort of pull this apart, you can see that I go to the left and then I come back to the right. If I feel that that's too much movement, okay, then I might adjust that so it's much more subtle. And then I just have to check the rotation and make sure is the rotation kind of working. Is it this one? Again, the same thing. It's very subtle. It's really, really something that would be hard to do by eye, but that's where copy paste comes into play. And I might just make it a lot less. Yeah, it's not rotating enough. It has to do more, maybe a little more. And I can see it is sliding a little, so I just keep fudging around and yep, that's better. That feels like it's gonna actually contact the floor. There. So that's what you can do to make your assignment stand out a little bit more. It just looks more believable. And you would do this with the light object as well as the heavy one, right? The heavy one especially. A heavy ball is not going to stop on a dime, right? It's definitely going to roll and then come back, right? It's gonna that's what makes it feel heavy. This is where I would expect you to get to for the light ball in terms of planning, right? So you start with where do I hit, right? Ground, up, down, clean up the arcs. And then I would probably go and tackle the squash and stretch, which I haven't done. Then when you've done that, then go tackle the roll. And the most challenging part of the roll is when it's on the ground.